Hey YouTube, Martin here. I'm going to walk you through my 13 fish tanks. It's kind of going to be a walk and talk, so you guys can get to know me a little bit. Um, I'm sort of just in the middle of a novice fish keeper, not an expert by any means. So learn with me as we go. So here we go. We'll start with fish tank number one. Um, Now, this is a small fish tank I have here. I call this the side fish tank. Um, I only change water in here. I don't do too many decoration changes here. This fish tank I use as a bit of a hold for any aggressive fish, any fish that are pretty much beating up another fish, or fish that have been beaten up on. Now, believe it or not, this fish right here in behind us is a albino pacu that I just received a couple days ago. Now, he is the biggest fish you will ever see. This is about I think it's a 39-gallon tank. It's my side tank. Now, this albino pacu grows over 3 feet long. Now, why he's in here is because my zebra cichlid keeps on beating up on him. So it's a good idea to keep a side tank. That way you guys, if you have a fish in trouble, you don't keep it in the tank and watch them get beaten up. Or if you have an aggressive fish, you don't just watch them beat other fish up. So that's tank number one. I do have more tanks. This is my pride and joy right now. I spent a lot of time on this tank here. This is a 55-gallon planted tank. I've put tons of plants in here. And this is mostly community fish. So I'll just kind of show you guys a little bit about it. There's molly fish, there's tetras in here. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'll try and do my best here. So I absolutely love watching this tank when I come home from work. It's extremely relaxing. I did add a little bit of a tiny tank within the tank here. It has holes on the side so that my betta fish actually live in that little tank. They swim in and out, and they don't like the water flow. I do have a lot of water flow, fast-moving water in here for the other fish. I have a little pump in the corner here that spits the water out to give them a little bit of a natural breeze through the tank, like a natural water wave, as they do require it. So the big tank behind me, if you guys can see, there is my Texas cichlid, and he's always hiding in the decorations. This is also my pride and joy, although I have a lot of work to do to get this tank going to where I would really want it to be. Now, there were multiple fish in there. There was Oscar cichlids, there was a knife fish, there was tons of other fish in there that were just growing too big. So I kept one in there that was an aggressive fish. He knows the timeout tank pretty well. He is the Texas cichlid. It's one of the more aggressive fish I've ever had so far. He just keeps beating up and taking over a tank. So if you get these guys, they're absolutely beautiful. I love them. He's one of my favorite fish. That's why he's the boss of this tank right now. So what's left in this tank is jewel cichlids, some smaller cichlids that grow up to 6 inches or so. Nothing huge. Now this guy will be one of the. He will grow quite big. I think he will go up to 18 inches, 16 inches. Don't quote me on that. But I have Venustus fish in there. I mentioned jewel cichlids. I have some brown cichlids. A couple other Africans in there. I'm going to mess around with the decorations. I love to move the decorations around, except for the planted tank. When you have a planted tank, you want to keep it stable. You don't want to do too much there because you want the plants to kind of settle in the gravel and in the sand, which you can see. I have gravel and I have sand, and there is also some soil that was there, a layer of soil. Most important thing about having like when you have a gravel tank, you want to have a lot of cleaners in there, like fish that clean. So for these fish, I have Cory catfish. I started out with Cory catfish. You can view the tank from the very beginning in my previous videos, where I just started with sand, just sand alone, and I've added on. But I started with the Cory catfish, which do an incredible job at cleaning gravel. So I recommend. I have like about 8 or more of them, and a ton of other little cleaner fish in here. I have plecos. I have 2 Brussels-nose pleco, 1 high fin pleco, which is kind of rare. I have all sorts of bottom feeders, including some loaches. So that's the 55-gallon tank. This is the 90-gallon tank, so you guys can understand that the fish that were moved out of there were getting too big for a 90-gallon tank. So let's go upstairs and show you the other room. It's sort of a room in progress right now. It's still being worked on. It is my guppy room / giant fish room. I'm still working. This is just a new room I've moved into. So I'll start with the first tank, and it's incredibly green with algae. So in this tank, this is my first guppy tank. What I do in this tank is I put fish in here that are pretty weak, pretty small for guppies. I do change the water here regularly, but I try to keep it as green as possible. And I have snails in almost every tank I own. They're incredibly good cleaners. They clean the poop, they clean everything. Snails are good. They will help you, even though you think, oh my god, my tank is being taken over snails. They actually, just like fish, they will adjust themselves. They won't overtake a tank. Most of the time they don't do that. They multiply to a level where they self-sustain. And so anyway, let's keep going. I do split up my guppies. I have multiple guppies and a lot of tanks here. I clean quite regularly, but I think some tanks need a little bit of cleaning, and it's a constant work in progress when you have like many tanks like I do. So this is a tank where I'm trying to grow out some tiger guppies. You may have seen some videos of some really cool tiger guppies from me. In the previous tank here, I have some, I believe they are Moscow guppies in here, a couple of them, but I'm still working on getting something else in there, and eventually I'll probably get rid of the green tank. But I like the water. I'm going to work on using that green water. This tank, no matter where I put it, even in the shade, for whatever reasons, it decided to grow algae, and it just can't stop. No matter how many water changes I do, no matter what I do, this one tank stays green. So I decided to work with it instead of going against it. And it's working pretty well for the fish that are kind of little sick and they need some constant a constant food source. This little tank right here, I'm building up a tuxedo guppy family. So yellow tail, black tuxedo. The tuxedo is the body, the black body, right? This tank, in most of my tanks, I have live plants at the top where fish absolutely enjoy it, and it makes for a nice, cool experience. Now continuing on, this tank is so hard to keep clean. This for the water, I cannot do water changes here. I have hundreds, or I shouldn't say hundreds, dozens of little baby guppies in this tank, and if I do water changes, I end up sucking some of them out, and I have to do very delicate water changes there. So that's why the tank is a little bit foggy, because I can't do the water changes in there as often as I would like. So these are all 10-gallon tanks. There's about 5 of them on the top shelf here. This tank here, check out all the snails. I absolutely love snails. I think they are cool, and from what I noticed, they are a huge benefit. In this tank, you can see nothing but snails and nothing on the bottom. I mean, the bottom is pretty much speck clean. They cleaned it all out. In this tank, I had white guppies, and I was working on some pastel colored guppies. Eventually, when you have guppies, if you do decide to kind of breed them like I'm trying to do, they're a lot of fun. You can do anything you want. You can breed them. They breed very quickly. Sometimes they'll revert back to their original prime see-through color. They call them almost like feeder guppies. So nothing too pretty when that happens, but it happens. And you can decide what you want to do with those. In this tank, I have a huge school of black guppies. I'm trying to sort of work on putting some yellow in their tail, something I'm working on. The next one here, we're starting to go down in size now. I have two 5-gallon tanks. This one, I'm sort of mixing a little bit of the yellow guppies in this tank. And this tank is completely empty. I'm experimenting with some snails and some algae. I want to grow it out, and then eventually what I want to do is put some shrimp in there. So having a ton of guppies will create you a ton of feeder fish you can use to either feed your big fish, or you can just pick out the prettiest ones and grow them out, and you can donate the rest to the pet store if you like, or anybody else that feels like, hey, I want to have an aquarium, I need some kind of fish, right? You know, if you know some people and you have some guppies that you're growing out, it's a good thing to just give them out if they grow too much. So the newest tank I have here, I want to show you guys, is this huge 120-gallon tank. And in this tank, I have Oscar fish. That's a nice fish. I have some silver dollars, a big pleco in here as well. In the decoration, there is a fire eel and this cool zebra cichlid. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a fire eel in there. So that's pretty much my setup right now. I'm working on this 24/7 to get this better so I can create some funky videos. And if you guys watch my videos, I like all kinds of videos. I like to make videos where there is some music. Sometimes I'll give you guys some information. Sometimes it's just fun. I like to have fun with my tanks. I love to play around with decorations. I love new fishes. I have a pet bird. You may be wondering why I have this tree in my fish room here. Basically, I just love to. I love nature, animals, and I want to create some sort of an Amazon feel to my fish room. And my bird does a good job at doing that. So hopefully, this little quick walkthrough kind of gives you an idea of where I'm going. Stay tuned, watch my videos, check out some of my subscribers. They're all awesome people. There's a ton of things to learn as I keep going and I keep building up my fish tank and my knowledge. You guys can see maybe from the beginning, that's the goal, as to where I started, right? And how it's all progressed further and further. And just about the snails here. In this tank, I have everything from snails to shrimp, rock shrimp, bottom feeders. I love bottom feeder fish, to all kinds of cichlids and not cichlids, I'm sorry, tetrafish and live breeders. But in the corner, I have this wood, driftwood, and it has snails all over it. And I noticed about snails, like I said, they clean extremely well. And when you turn the light off at night, they all come out on the glass. So I do have some loaches in this tank. There's all kinds of different loaches you can get. There is loaches that they look like little worms, like tiger loaches, little worms that go into the sand. There is all sorts of loaches. A lot of them eat snails. So that's one thing. If you have a lot of snails, you can get the killer snails to help you out. The assassin snails, they call them. But a loach will do just the same. And even all these mollies, and I have some angelfish in here as well. Don't know where they're hiding. I think they're right behind me. This pair of a black angel and a gold angel here. They're aggressive, but as far as like eating snails, they can easily clean that up as well. So I like all sorts of critters. You'll probably see more different fish from me in the future in my tanks as I continue to expand, and I want to try new things and newer things. Let's see, what else did I want to mention here to you guys? For now, I think this is a good introduction, even though it's like video 220 out of all my videos. I'm Martin. Subscribe to my channel. That way it keeps me motivated. I don't like people giving negative comments to anybody. I really try to stay away from that. If you feel like it, go ahead. But what I really think is anyone and everyone needs to learn. And if they're doing something wrong, there's no point to be rude about it. No point to say bad things. And I mean, everybody does some things they don't quite know at the beginning. So keep watching videos. The more you watch, the more you learn. Subscribe to my channel. Give it a like. Stay tuned. I'll make some funky videos. The 90-gallon tank behind me is likely to change a little bit. I'm probably going to get some kind of funky fish in there pretty soon too, so you guys can enjoy a little bit more, because the cichlids I have in this tank, I'm going to try and show you guys. They have so much decorations to hide in. They all decided to hide in this tree house I've built up here for them on the side. So most of the time they're now hiding, and I have all this free room in the middle, so I have to find a fish that will fit there, that will kind of swim around, something funky. So another thing I want to pass on, maybe a little bit of knowledge I've learned. All these tanks, you need to do you need to clean your filter regularly for each tank. In my guppy tanks, you may have noticed I'm staying away from filters. I don't actually have filters in my guppy tanks. I do a lot of water changes there. I rotate my air supply, so I don't have a air supply in every single aquarium there. They simply get air once a week, 1 day a week in each tank. I find that having guppies don't need the air supply. If the tank is large enough and you don't have too many guppies in there, they can do without a air supply, as long as there's some live plants in there to release some oxygen every once in a while. Same with this tank. Tons of plants in here. They all release air, but I still have an air supply in the back. You'll see the bubbles going up and down there. So decorations are key. I love decorations. I love moving them around. Like I mentioned, the tank in behind me, if you watch my videos, I do that quite often. Part of the reason is, number one, you have to move your decorations so you can clean the gravel or underneath them. So that's number one, why I moved the decorations. Number two, from what I've learned as well, is you want to move them just because fish get really bored having the same place, the same, and your videos will be boring if you make videos, right? Or you will simply get bored with the tank if you do not move something once in the blue moon. So I strongly recommend playing with it, experimenting, making it look the way you want. And just so you know, another thing about fish tanks, you can overstock them. It's possible to do that really quickly, really easily. You can put too many fish in a tank. But what will happen is they will likely what will happen is fish will adjust the amount of fish in the tank on their own. So what will happen is some fish will just simply die for no reason. And that's simply not because you don't have enough air, not because you're not cleaning, not because a lot of times, there's no hidden disease or anything like that. What it is they're just simply adjusting to how many they can support in a tank. They sort of know on their own, right? And they'll some of them will just die off on you because you may have too many fish in your tank. It does happen. So that's another thing. Another thing is, don't give up on any fish. I've had a guppy fish once that had absolutely no tail. And I decided to put it in a tank, give it a little bit of medicine, to treat it a little bit, because I think originally it lost it because I think it had some kind of a tail rot. I'm not sure what happened, but I didn't give up on the fish. So what happened is, in a month or two, it grew out its tail from almost next to nothing. The fish became healthy. It's one of my favorite guppies, to be honest. It's been around for a while. So don't give up on any fish. Find a way to keep trying to every life is precious, right? Even though it's a fish, even though, oh, well, it's a guppy fish, oh, it's this. You know what? If you're in the hobby, you love all your fish, even the little guppy with no tail. That's what I learned. I'm trying to do my best for all these fish. to provide them a home that they will feel comfortable with. They won't be bored. You see that they're swimming, like in the back here. They all have found spots. I have like 3 or 4 breeding pairs of cichlids in the back tank there, and they so you can see them running around there. What they do is they're very territorial, so they find a little piece of the tank, little hole, little thing, they call it their home. But you know what? I will move it. Not right away, within a month or two, I'll move it. I'll let them readjust. And why? Because I need to clean the gravel. That's the main idea. But also because they'll get way too aggressive if you just leave them there. Any fish you put in the tank that will try and hide or anything like that, they'll just kill, because it's their home, right? They've always lived there in that one spot, right? But if you move a little bit of the that's a secret for the cichlids, right? If you move them around, the decorations around a little bit, then you can easily add another fish once in a blue moon, and they will not go crazy trying to kill a new tank member. But if you have fish and you want to keep them as is, you don't want to add anything else, you don't want to frontosas are awesome for that. They live in schools, they're beautiful fish, they're slow growers. I'm thinking of doing a frontosa tank one day too. I've watched some really cool videos, like I think one of the cool people I'm subscribed to is Fish World Cichlids, and he is the boss, to me anyway, for all sorts of peacock cichlids, and and he has just gone into frontosa fish, which are really cool fish that I've always wanted. So I might follow suit one day as well. I absolutely love them. I just don't know if I have any tank space for that. So keep an eye out in the videos, what kind of fish people have, what your favorites are. Just because a fish looks nice doesn't mean you gotta have that fish. You know, it takes time to know your own limits, to know what you can actually take care of and keep alive, right? Like we also have discus fish, a lot of discus fish in a huge tank, which I can't show you. It's at another location. But if you look at some of my previous videos, you'll see a lot of discus fish there, and they're absolutely amazing. But I myself right now, I don't think I can keep them. I do take them in sometimes and try to cure them for my dad, who has the big tank with the discus. So we're kind of swapping fish once in a blue moon. He has some rainbow fish and so on. So that's it. I just wanted to introduce myself. I have never really talked on the camera for a while to you guys. I showed you my tanks. It's a work in progress. Keep that in mind. I'll do another big update like this in the future, but in the meantime, I'll do some funky videos. I'll move some decorations around. You guys can check out some fish. Check out my videos. See if you like the fish. That's the idea. I want to showcase the fish as best as I can for you. I want to introduce you into the fish hobby if you've never been into fish before. So many cool things you can do. It's basically a world you design, and these are your babies.